When you think of a chain restaurant, a bonafide steakhouse is probably not the first thing that comes to mind. Burritos? Sure. Lynn Spears is channeling big sister Britney in upcoming memoir, Things I Should Have Said, where she calls out their parents for pressuring her to have an abortion at 16 years old. In excerpts obtained by TMZ, Lynn, 30, claims that after telling dad Jamie and mother Lynne that she was pregnant in 2007, they came to my room trying to convince me that having a baby at this point in my life was a terrible idea. It will kill your career. You were just too young. Burgers? Absolutely. But steak? It seems like a dish that's reserved for only the most exclusive of establishments. But there's one chain that does steak really, really well, and that's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. You don't know what you're doing. There are pills you can take. We can help you take care of this problem. I know a doctor, she claims they told her, adding, everyone around me just wanted to make this issue disappear. Everyone was certain that termination would be the best course of action. Ultimately deciding to follow through with the pregnancy, the Zoe 101 Inches star got into an argument with dad Jamie, slinging words and tossing insults, when he suggested she give up her child for adoption. She also claims she was told not to tell sister Britney about the pregnancy. I needed her more than ever and she wasn't able to help me in my most vulnerable time. To this day, the hurt of not being able to tell my sister myself still lingers. Eventually, the family struck a deal with Us Weekly to break the news, sharing first photos of baby Maddie, now 13 years old, in 2008. Lynn added that she and mom Lynne hid out in a cabin, in where she believes was Connecticut, until the story was published. It's a place where you can grab a nice meal and treat yourself and your loved ones. And since there are so many different choices on the menu, you know that everyone in your crew will find something they'll love. But if you haven't been to the restaurant many times, you may be at a loss for what to order. With so many different delicious sounding items on the menu, how are you ever supposed to choose? Let's take a look at some of the most popular items on the menu. While spending Thanksgiving together, she claims her mama wore her disappointment like her favorite jacket. Sister Britney has been slamming the Spears for months for being complicit in her conservatorship, most recently telling fans that she could easily expose her family, including sister Lynn, for their transgressions in a tell-all Q&A session. Lord have mercy on my family's souls if I ever do an interview, she wrote on Instagram last week. We've ranked them from worst to first so you'll have a good idea of what you should try and what you should leave behind. 25. Lettuce wedge. We're sorry, but is there anything sadder and more depressing than a wedge salad? Don't get us wrong, we love salads. And that's why we feel the need to call out this abomination of a side dish. The lettuce wedge salad is incredibly simple, and not in a good way. First, you'll get some crunchy, watery lettuce that's hardly appetizing if you're the kind of person who generally enjoys eating salads. That lettuce comes with blue cheese and bacon on top. When you order a big, hearty steak, you probably want your side dishes to complement the star of the show well. And because steaks can be so heavy, you're probably on the lookout for something that's lighter and more refreshing when it comes to your side dishes. So why on earth would you want your veggies to be completely doused in dairy products and meat? It just doesn't make any sense. There are plenty of tasty veggies on the Ruth's Chris menu, but this one is not it. 24. Stuffed chicken breast. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is not the cheapest chain restaurant you can go to. The food there is on the nicer side, so it might feel like a special occasion every time you go. You're paying for access to delicious, well-cooked steaks. So why would you decide to get the stuffed chicken breast instead? Look, we get that not everyone wants to eat red meat all the time, but this entree is just not it. First of all, it starts out with a breast, which is definitely the least flavorful kind of chicken you can choose. Then, it's stuffed with garlic herb cheese and lemon butter. Can you hear us snoring already? This is such a boring and uninspired dish. It's something you could even make at home, if you can be bothered to whip up something this bland. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has so many incredible cuts of meat. Don't sell yourself short by opting for the chicken breast. 23. Calamari. We love a good seafood appetizer. There's just something that's so nice about starting off your meal with a light taste of fish.
But if you're wondering whether you should order the calamari from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, we're here to tell you that you're better off choosing something else. Why? Well, it's not because we don't like calamari. When it's done well, there's nothing better. But the calamari here is not the best you can get. The squid is lightly fried, but somehow, it's still way too greasy. When you order seafood, you probably want something on the lighter side, so this clearly isn't ideal. It's paired with a sweet and spicy chili sauce that's really more sweet than it is spicy. The worst part? It's super rubbery, making it hard to even finish chewing a piece once you take a bite. It's not the ideal calamari situation, if you ask us. 22. Sweet potato casserole. If you're like us, a sweet potato casserole makes you think of fun times spent with family, gathered around a table at the holidays. It may be a side dish, but it's also sweet enough to play double duty as a dessert. Therefore, when you see the sweet potato casserole on the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse menu, you may be tempted to give it a try. Of course, it's up to you, but it's certainly not one of our favorite sides at the steakhouse. First of all, there's the texture. It's way mushier than you might expect, even bordering on the point of being liquid. Why? Doesn't sound that appetizing, does it? Then there's the lack of flavor. It almost tastes like no spices were used at all. Finally, add in the weird, soggy topping, and it's a side dish that we'd rather just avoid. Don't worry, though, there are other tasty potato options on the menu. 21. Lobster Mac and Cheese. We don't want to talk too poorly about lobster mac and cheese because it's one of those modern-day comfort foods that seriously hits the spot sometimes. How can you not love lobster, cheese, and pasta all in one dish? But when it comes to the lobster mac and cheese you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, we were a little less than impressed. Why? It's just such a basic dish. There's no strong flavors in the mix, so it all ends up being a bit blah. Lobster, pasta, and cheese can already be light on the flavor, so we wish there was a bit more going on here. So while this lobster mac and cheese isn't the best thing on the menu, there are better options to try. And if you're truly craving some amazing lobster mac and cheese, you can easily find another restaurant where they serve the good stuff. 20. Ruth's chopped salad. While we are grateful that there are salads on the menu at this steakhouse, the Ruth's chopped salad isn't anything to write home about. Is it better than the lettuce wedge? Absolutely, but that's not exactly difficult. This salad is about as boring as they come. Atop a bed of lettuce, you'll find mushrooms, bacon, egg, and olives. If that sounds like it's missing a lot of delicious veggies, you're not wrong. It's also got blue cheese and a basil dressing on top, but those ingredients don't do much to make it better. Again, this salad is packed with animal products that don't exactly lend themselves to freshness. Any flavor from the veggies is drowned by all the blue cheese, too much of it, we may add. Sure, if you really want to get a salad on the side, we guess that this one might fit the bill, but you shouldn't go out of your way to visit Ruth's Chris just to try these greens. 19. Bread pudding. You'll have the choice between a few different desserts when you make your way to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, and most of them are at least decent. However, our least favorite is definitely the bread pudding. That's mostly because it's too sweet. These days, people are leaning more and more toward more interesting, complex flavors in their desserts as opposed to overpowering sweetness. But this bread pudding doesn't seem to take the hint. When you first bite into it, it tastes good, but it actually hurts your teeth a little bit. The more you try to eat, the more you'll realize how over-the-top sweet it is. We do like the texture it has from the raisins, and the whiskey sauce is definitely solid. We wish we could put it on a wider variety of foods. But with other mouthwatering desserts on the menu, you don't need to go with the bread pudding. 18. Mushrooms stuffed with crab meat. When you go out to a restaurant like Ruth's Chris, there's a good chance that you're eating out because it's a special occasion. Whether you're celebrating an anniversary, a graduation, or just the end of the work week, going out to treat yourself may mean splurging and getting an appetizer. Appetizers are amazing because they allow you to sample more flavors without having to order too many whole entrees. And that's where the mushrooms stuffed with crab meat come in. We like that this menu item isn't something that you're going to see everywhere, which makes it more appealing. And in theory, it sounds amazing. In reality, though, it's a bit lackluster. The mushrooms have a rubbery texture, and the crab meat is a bit bland. It was a good try on the restaurant's part, but we don't think we'll be starting off our order with these mushrooms anytime soon. 17. Cheesecake. You may be asking yourself, how is it possible that ice cream isn't in the very first spot on this list? That's a valid question, as cheesecake is a superior dessert. And when it comes to the cheesecake at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, you're probably not going to regret ordering it. But is it the best dessert on the menu? Absolutely not. If anything, this stuff just tastes like store-bought cheesecake. Not bad, per se, but just not interesting in any way. They could have added a variety of ingredients to the cheesecake, but they decided not to. The dessert is served with fresh berries and mint, which add a nice touch. the tartness of the berries really plays well with the sweetness of the rest of the dessert. However, because this cheesecake was so simple, we probably wouldn't want to order it on a special night out. Isn't novelty half the fun? 16. Garlic crusted sea bass. It's usually not a bad idea to order seafood at a steak restaurant, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be the best thing on the menu. And when it comes to the garlic crusted sea bass, it's no exception. Is this the worst fish dish on the menu? Definitely not. After all, when you crust something in garlic, it's pretty much guaranteed to taste at least relatively good. However, we just can't give this one our total seal of approval. Perhaps because this is a steak restaurant and not a place that specializes in seafood, you can't guarantee that your fish isn't going to come out overcooked. This is not necessarily a lovingly prepared fillet of fish. Rather, it seems like more of an afterthought on the menu. If you're looking for a lighter seafood option, then this may be the way to go. But if you'd prefer to enjoy something more interesting and flavorful, there are better options for you on the menu, even if you decide against a steak. 15. Shrimp cocktail. How can you not love shrimp cocktail? There's something about this classic dish that keeps people coming back for more time and time again. It's a chance to really appreciate the shrimp for all it is. It's not fried or doused in a complicated sauce before it even arrives to the table. Instead, you get to choose how much cocktail sauce you want on each bite. The sauce itself has that horseradish-y spiciness to it that'll make you want to eat the whole dish of it, and when the two come together, it's magic. That's shrimp cocktail in general, though. When it comes to the shrimp cocktail you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, we think you could take it or leave it. It's shrimp cocktail, so you know it's going to have some basic appeal. But there's nothing different or interesting about the sauce, and the shrimp probably aren't the freshest shrimp you've ever eaten. That being said, sometimes you just have to start off your meal with some shrimp cocktail. We understand. 14. New York strip. Let's get one thing straight here. Pretty much any steak you get at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse is going to be a good choice. This place specializes in steaks, so you know you're going to get something that you'll actually enjoy. However, there are definitely some cuts of meat we like better than others. While a New York strip is generally a great option, we don't think it's the best choice when you go to this chain steakhouse. When you go for the New York strip, you're going to get a tougher cut of meat than many of the other options on the menu. That's because New York strips don't have as much marbling in them, which is that fattiness that melts into the rest of the steak, making it juicier and more tender. It tastes good, but there are much more impressive steaks on the menu. If you are going to order this one, though, we definitely recommend going with a rare or medium rare preparation so the steak doesn't get too chewy. 13. Sizzling crab cakes entree. Sometimes, when you go out for a nice meal, you want to order something that feels kind of special and impressive. But this isn't an Applebee's, and you're not going to be able to order the sizzling fajitas. So, what should you go for? We think the sizzling crab cakes entree will definitely get the job done. You'll get 3 jumbo lump crab cakes that come out with sizzling lemon butter. This lemon butter adds just the right amount of fat and acidity to give the crab an extra hit of flavor. That being said, we wish the crab were just slightly more flavorful. This dish could have packed more of a punch if it had a touch of spiciness to it or even just a more interesting concoction of mild spices. However, because the presentation is so special, we can look past those minor flaws. If you love a good crab cake, this entree should definitely be up for consideration. 12.
T-bone. If you're looking for a nice, hefty steak that is sure to fill you up and taste amazing in the process, you may be looking for the T-bone steak you can snag at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. That's because when you order a T-bone, you're actually getting 2 different cuts of meat. On one side of the bone, you'll find the strip steak, which is known as being a super flavorful cut. But you don't have to stop there because on the other side is the tenderloin, famous for its tenderness. Because the bone steaks in this cut of steak, you're going to hang on to more of that flavor and juiciness. Just a warning, though, this is a really big cut of meat. It comes in at 24 ounces, so you're going to want to make sure you're really hungry before ordering it. If you do, though, we don't think you'll be disappointed. 11. Lamb chops. When you go to a steakhouse, you're probably only thinking about the beef. What's the best cut, and how many ounces do you want to tackle? But when you take a look at the menu at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, you're going to see something that you may not have bargained for: the lamb chops. For lamb lovers, this is a total dream come true. It's not every restaurant that offers lamb, so you're probably going to want to take advantage of it here. If you're not familiar with lamb, it's worth a try. Lamb has a stronger taste than beef, and it can be described as gamey. Don't let this turn you off, though. When lamb is cooked well, it's absolutely delicious. Ruth's Chris Steakhouse may not have the best lamb in the world, but if you want to give it a try, you're not going to go wrong with this dish. 10. Crimini mushrooms. Looking for one of the tastiest side dishes on the menu? In that case, you can't go wrong with the Crimini mushrooms. If you know anything about mushrooms, then you know that this is one of the most popular varieties available. They have a nice, mild flavor, so even those who usually aren't huge fans of mushrooms might like this dish. The texture is also nice, soft, and meaty without being too rubbery. These mushrooms are pan-roasted, which really helps to draw out the liquid and brown the fungi, giving it a sweet, caramelized flavor you're going to fall in love with. What's even better is the veal demi-glace, which lends a savoriness to the mushrooms that you won't get from most side dishes. Add in the fresh thyme, and it's clear why this dish is such a winner. If you're looking for a go-to veggie side from this steakhouse, now you know what to look for. 9. Spicy shrimp. One thing you might notice if you frequent Ruth's Chris Steakhouse frequently is the fact that there are not a lot of spicy items on the menu. If you like a dish that offers a bit of heat, you may not be too pleased with the selection at this chain. However, there is one dish that you're probably going to love if you don't mind a touch of spiciness in your food, and that's the spicy shrimp. First of all, the shrimp themselves are juicy and plump, and then they're fried to give them some texture. But the magic really happens when you add in the velvety spicy cream sauce. A lot of times, you don't see spicy sauces that are also creamy, so we love that Ruth's Chris is offering us something different. This may seem like a lighter meal because it's just seafood, but it's actually incredibly filling. Shrimp lovers, this is definitely a menu item to check out. 8. Seared Ahi Tuna. We were surprised that the Seared Ahi Tuna landed a spot this close to the top of the list, but once you try it for yourself, you'll totally understand why. This fish is cooked to perfection, which isn't always the case at seafood spots, let alone steakhouses. The outside of the fish is seared well, giving it almost a crispy crust. However, the inside looks completely raw, so you get to enjoy all that flavor you can only get from raw tuna. It also comes out plated beautifully, so you may want to snap a few pictures before you dig in. Your ahi tuna will also be served with fresh English cucumbers, which add a lightness to the meal that complements the fish well. Add in the mustard beer sauce, and it's clear why this is one of our favorite items on the menu. We know that not everyone will want to order fish at a steakhouse, but if it sounds good to you, you should totally go for it. 7. Ribeye. In general, ribeyes are considered one of the best cuts of meat. That's because they're very well marbled with fat, giving you incredible amounts of flavor and tenderness throughout the entire cut of meat. Therefore, pretty much anywhere you order a ribeye that knows how to cook it well, you're going to be fine. But it's also one of our favorite cuts at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. This steak weighs in at 16 ounces, which is one of the more reasonable sizes on the menu. At only 11 ounces, a filet might not be enough for some people, while a 24-ounce T-bone steak can be too big and intimidating.
But since the ribeye is right in the middle, it seems like a more approachable option. Like most steaks, this cut will taste best to most when cooked medium rare, but the choice is up to you. Just don't blame us if you order it well and get an overcooked steak. 6. Chilled seafood tower. There's just something about a seafood tower that gets the party started immediately. Sure, the seafood itself is good, but there's also the impressive presentation. Who doesn't want to be served a massive platter full of delicious food they probably don't eat on a regular basis? That's why the chilled seafood tower at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse gets high marks from us. You're going to get a variety of different types of seafood when you order this seafood tower. The king crab is definitely something special, and it's a great way to start off your meal. Then comes the succulent, juicy shrimp that taste amazing on ice. The lobster may be the most luxurious part of the tower, so you'll want to really savor it when you give it a try. And don't forget about the colossal lump crab, also a treat you won't be able to get enough of. While, yes, this may seem like more of an appetizer to share with the whole table, nobody's saying you can't make it your entree. We certainly won't judge. 5. Chocolate sin cake. It's time to talk about the best dessert on the entire menu. When you go to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, take it from us, you need to order the chocolate sin cake. It really is sinfully good. This is a flourless cake, which means that it's exceptionally moist. You're not going to have to worry about taking a bite of a dry slice of cake if you order this stuff. Ganache adds a layer of richness and luxury to the cake and adds even more to the chocolatey flavor. And while yes, this all sounds pretty intense and frankly, too heavy, the game changer is the raspberry sauce. This sauce is relatively sweet as well, but it packs a punch with a tartness that really transforms the whole dessert. The rich sweetness from the chocolate and the tartness of the sauce come together perfectly to create a dessert that we want to have every night after dinner. If you really want to treat yourself when you go out to dinner, the chocolate sin cake is a must-try menu item. 4. Petite filet and shrimp. When you go out to eat, you may already know exactly what you want before you even sit down at the table. And for people like that, the petite filet and shrimp from Ruth's Chris Steakhouse may not sound like the best option. But for those of us who can't make up our minds about what to order, this may just be the perfect choice. When you choose the petite filet and shrimp, you basically get to try 2 entrees in one. You'll get 2 tiny, 4-ounce filet medallions for your steak portion. These medallions might be small, but they're packing a lot of flavor. You're going to be blown away by how tender they are. The small size also makes them seem more manageable and helps you to savor them even more. This order also comes with 6 large shrimp. These shrimp are much lighter than the steak, adding a nice contrast to what otherwise might be a really heavy meal. So, if you want to try a taste of both the steak and seafood options, aka surf and turf, you'll find at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, the petite filet and shrimp may just be your new go-to order. 3. Tomahawk for 2. Whether you're celebrating a momentous occasion or just really want to impress your date with something special, you may be considering the tomahawk for 2. Let us just tell you, it's worth it. The first thing you should know about this cut is the fact that it comes out with a massive bone still attached to the steak. That's part of the appeal. It really does offer a wow factor that you're just not going to get from any other cut on the menu. It's not just about the steak's looks, though, it's also an especially tasty cut. This is a thick steak, so you're going to get a lot of meat in every bite. It's also really well marbled, meaning all that fat has soaked into the meat. And since this steak weighs in at a whopping 40 ounces, you're not going to worry about not having enough to share. In fact, you may even be able to share this cut with 3 of 4. Once you taste it, though, you probably won't want to. 2. Veal osso buco ravioli. Did you think that you were going to see a pasta dish snagging one of the top spots at a ranking of Ruth's Chris Steakhouse dishes? We didn't think so, but the veal osso buco ravioli really is something special. It might be filling, yes, but we definitely think you should give it a try if you want to taste the best of the best on the menu. The saffron-infused pasta is out of this world, and it goes so well with the sautéed spinach that adds a touch of green and freshness to the dish. The veal demi-glace, though, is what really brings out the flavor in this dish. It's an incredibly rich sauce that pairs so well with what would otherwise be quite a light pasta. Though this may not be something you would think to order at a steakhouse, it truly is something special. Give it a try the next time you go. 1. Porterhouse for 2. It's finally time for the best of what Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has to offer, and it's no wonder it's a steak. We love a lot of the dishes on the menu, but this one really is a cut above the rest. It's the Porterhouse for 2, and you might not even want to share it once you taste how good it is. Ruth's Chris website describes it as having the richness of a strip and the tenderness of a fillet. So if you really want the best of both worlds, it's clear why this steak is your best bet. We also love the fact that this is a dish you can share because it makes it ideal for a date night. You'll get a 40-ounce steak, which should be more than enough meat. Seriously, it's a lot, for 2 people. And getting to share the dish adds something special to the dining experience. If you truly want the best that Ruth's Chris has to offer, we can't recommend enough trying the Porterhouse for 2.